Welcome to The Business Strategist, the show for CEOs and founders ready to scale fast, lead smarter, and build a business that doesn't rely on them. I'm Adam Strong, award-winning strategist, former elite athlete, international speaker, and 3 times best-selling author. After 3 decades in business, I know exactly what it takes to grow, scale, and exit with impact. Each week, I dive into real conversations with industry experts, bold entrepreneurs, and clients navigating the uphill struggles of business, giving you the tools and the strategies to create more profit, more freedom, and more impact. Let's get into it. What's the difference between entrepreneurs that will 10x their business in 2026 and those that will plateau or fail? And honestly, it's actually not what you think. So I'm sitting here, and I'm not going to give you any what I call guru bullshit or an article that I've read off TechCrunch or what I pulled from ChatGPT or Claude or whatever it is. What I'm about to share with you is literally what we're doing right now in the business. It isn't theory. It's real life experience. It's insights. It is things that we're doing in the trenches and things that I am seeing right now that I can bet you top dollar that these will be the top trends and predictions for 2026. So first of all, ladies and gents, if this is the first time or you're a regular, welcome back. Welcome to The Business Strategist with myself, Adam Strong. And I wanted to share with you guys, this episode actually is, I always like to do these episodes as kind of like trends and predictions for going into the new year. Because one thing that I will just shout out loud, if you roll into the new year doing the same shit that you were doing in 2024, same strategy, same content, same grind, I will tell you now, you are going to be cooked. You're going to be left behind, and I will guarantee you will struggle 100%, because the gap between those that really take on some of the predictions and trends that I'm about to share with you is going to be the difference between those that get left behind and the ones that thrive. So one thing that I do know going into the new year is that 2026 is no longer an era of ideas. Okay, ideas are great, but it's all about execution. We are what I call in the operator era. So execution beats ideas hands down. So I'm going to basically talk to you around 5 trends or 5 things that we're actually doing in the business that are working right now. And these things are going to be separating what I call the operators from the people who are just observing. So let's jump into the first one. The first trend of prediction that I'm seeing right now, or the things that we've certainly jumped on, is at the beginning of the year, in fact, throughout the year, I was really frustrated about the amount of manual time that we've spent on trying to automate and systemize and streamline some of our processes and just the way that in which we connect with our audience more specifically. And one of the things that we've seen, especially in 2025, is you've got the N8Ns out there, you've got the Claude, you've now got Zapier that have built campaigns that you can create what we call AI agents, which you might have heard of. And so what I would really kind of want, one of the questions that I kind of came up with was not to think of how AI is going to replace me or my job. Okay. Again, doesn't matter who you are. If you're a web designer, you're an accountant, you're in IT, whatever it might be, stop thinking that AI is going to replace you. Start thinking, what can you do to leverage AI that's going to help you save time so that you can give you a strategic edge? Because it's those people that use AI in the right way that's going to help create that unique selling proposition. So one of the things that we've done, actually, one of the things that we've been testing over the last, I'd probably say 6 months more specifically, is we've actually built an AI agent that takes the heavy lifting of connecting with new prospects, building some rapport and conversations, and from that, then developing a relationship that then automatically helps us to then follow up with them. The problem with places like LinkedIn, for example, social media, is that you might have a conversation with someone and yet there's not really a process, or there's not really anything set up in order to in order to follow up with that individual, whether it be a week, a month, a year later down the line. But what if you could create a campaign that would do that heavy lifting, rather than scrolling through all the hundreds, if not thousands, of messages that you might have had with potential prospects or potential partners? To me, it makes a lot more sense. So one of the things that we've been doing is we've been testing some AI agents to help streamline things, to help it make the manual labor, remove the manual labor, and then we can use the agent to be able to do the heavy lifting for us. And one of the things that we've found, we actually started working with a platform, and we did it for probably the best part of a year of doing some different testing. And then back in the fall of 2025, we then jumped to a new system, which was actually more efficient. It was actually more streamlined. We built a campaign. We started testing and experimenting. We started A/B split testing the messaging a little bit. And I'll be honest with you, even I'm quite surprised about the results that we have actually achieved. And we're having a lot more human-based conversations, even though it is automated. It sounds like me, and it's casual, it's inviting, it's conversational. And again, we're using the agent to effectively do the heavy lifting for us. Well, at least at the beginning part anyway. And then it's just a matter of then cranking that up and taking that into more of a conversation and building a relationship and trust over time. So that's the first thing. If I was to give you any call to action right now for 2026, look at what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. Think about how you can effectively save time. What can you use to leverage AI to help build a campaign that will improve what you're currently doing? So in our case, it was all around client acquisitions, lead generation, customer support, things like that. So what is the one thing that you could do to look at and how you can leverage technology to be able to implement in 2026? All right. So that's trend number one, or prediction number one. That's the first thing. You're ready to exit. So why haven't you? You may be in business for 15, 20, 25 years of building your business, but the passion is gone. You're done. But one question keeps you stuck. Is the number close enough to walk away without any regret? What can you actually spend? What kind of life does it fund? And will you look back in 5 years wishing you'd stayed in your business? Now, our sponsor, Zentum, works exclusively with founders at this exact moment. They're chartered financial planners who show you exactly what exit really means. Your spending power, your options, even income that you can generate outside the business. They give you the clarity to pull the trigger with confidence, or a plan to bridge the gap. Visit zentum.co.uk and find out if it's finally time. That's zentum.co.uk and find out if it's finally time. Prediction number 2 is personal branding. Now, interestingly enough, I've been probably building my personal brand for probably the best part of five or 6 years. And interesting statistic here, ladies and gents, is that I'll use LinkedIn as an example, because that's generally where I tend to play. But only 1.1% of the billion members that are on LinkedIn actually post on a weekly basis. So when you see posts on LinkedIn complaining about the fact that they're seeing the same stuff all the time, it's just over 1% of people that post on a regular basis. That gives you a completely different competitive edge to a lot of people out there. A lot of people that are on LinkedIn are what I call lurkers, and they're lurking in the background or observing. And then when the time's right, they'll reach out to you, or they'll make a comment, or whatever it might be. Yeah. But most people are lurkers, and it's those lurkers that's really where the gold mine is. So one of the things that I'm seeing, especially on personal branding, is stop obsessing with creating content that is you're trying to hack the algorithm effectively. People are sick and tired of AI slop. I don't know about you guys, but I am sick and tired of seeing the AI comments, the AI slop. You can generally see it, the way it's been structured and formatted in, and just certain AI language patterns that you can generally pick up, and you're just thinking to yourself, that just doesn't sound right. Okay. And one of the things, especially that I have observed and going into the new year, is that people are craving real connection, like real human connection. They want resonance and they want relatability. And I feel like one of the things that I've done particularly well is really drilling down on that, rather than focusing on vanity metrics, is to actually focus on real insight, real experience, what I call the mistakes, the shit that's in the middle, and the struggles, right? People appreciate that because, again, it's like, okay, this is speaking to me, right? One thing that I particularly will stick to is sticking to the one platform, speaking to one ICP, solving one problem, giving them one solution. Unless you have a massive team and you have a bucket full of resources, then of course, go wide in terms of your messaging. But if you don't want to feel overwhelmed and you want to really kind of double down on getting some traction, focus on that one platform. For me, it's LinkedIn, and it's not the right platform for everybody. Depend on who your clients are, or the problems that you're trying to solve. Is going to depend on the type of social media that they're hanging out on. So again, it completely depends. But one of the things that I'll be doing more of, and it's certainly something that I would recommend to you guys, is document your experiences. One of the things that I do actually is I love to have an AI note taker when I'm having client calls or whatever it is, and then just start using those AI notes, and even though using those AI notes and just kind of scraping certain information that again shares insight, shares experience, shares struggle, and how we kind of help that. I like to share freely. Remember, share everything for free. They pay for implementation. And I used to think that actually, and again, I used to think that why should I give everything away for free? But actually, you know, I'm not being funny. You've got Google, you've got ChatGPT, you've got Claude. Like, there's so much information out there that you can pretty much find anything out there. What people pay for is implementation. So just kind of, again, bear that in mind. So personal branding to me, and here's the thing, if the economy is down or it's being affected through the unrest in the political landscape, is that a personal brand is what I call recession proof. No one can tell, no one can share your experiences. No one can give insight like you can ultimately. So to me, continuing to build on that personal brand. And here's another great example is that if we look at people like Cristiano Ronaldo, for example, who's got more Instagram followers than all of the English Premier League football clubs in the UK. Now, that's pretty insane. One individual beats the entire of the of all the Premiership football clubs in the UK in terms of personal brand and reach and followers. So I just said it, right? People trust people. People trust in personal brands, and it's becoming more and more apparent. So that is prediction number 2. Prediction number 3. Now, this is something that I feel very strongly for, which basically is how content consumption has shifted. And if we look at the way that consumers' behavior habits have changed over the years, so we look back in 2014 when everyone jumped on the bandwagon of Facebook ads because it was like a couple of cents to, create an ad and get access to your ICP. But now in 2025, we've now got this. We've now got some different entry points. Now people are sick, and people don't believe in investing hugely in Facebook ads because they've got so much more expensive. Google AdWords aren't as effective as they used to be. It's much more expensive, as an example. But what we are seeing now is that consumers' behaviors is that we're seeing an increase in YouTube views. We're seeing an increase in podcast consumption. So these are the trends that we need to take into consideration, and that society's behavior has shifted dramatically, especially as we continue to move through the digital age. And so one of the things that I feel is really working for us is that it's not about going wide. It's actually about going deep. So depth is winning much more. So one of the things that we like to do in our business is that we'll take a podcast as an example. And this is just something that you guys can do. If you get featured on a podcast, or if you would love to get on the podcast, then do that. Go and apply it onto podcasts, but use that intellectual property and break it into what I call mini digital assets. And that could be an article, that could be a newsletter, that could be 10 different video snippets as an example, which you can use to create more organic content that again creates that resonance, that creates that trust element on social media. People don't want ideas, people want substance now, right? They don't want what I call the icing on the cake. They want the real meat on the bones. And that's what I'm really, really seeing is that if we look at our podcast stats, for example, and I'll just share with you that this year has been our most successful year in the podcasting realm. We're seeing a massive increase in downloads. We're seeing an increase in streams on Spotify and on YouTube, of course. We're actually having more reach. We actually have listeners in over 57 countries around the world. We're a top 1.5% podcast. So just, again, these are trends that I'm seeing. So what I would recommend is thinking about how you can repurpose your repurpose your content into multiple different assets. So continue doing that. I think it's just a great way to save a lot of time, and there's a lot of great tools to be able to do that as well. So that's prediction number 3. Prediction number 4. I've been really focusing on 25, and I'll continue this in 26, is that community beats vanity metrics all day long. All right. So I feel like a lot of people are so obsessed around the fact that, I'll use LinkedIn as an example, is the fact that we're not getting enough impressions. We're not getting enough reach. That's helping us to get our message out there. But actually, that's not what I would recommend, is actually looking at some other different stats that are far much more substantial. So tracking things like DMs or direct messages, tracking your profile views and who you can actually, if your message is actually resonating with your core ICP. Focusing on profile views and not really focusing on what everyone else is doing is what you should be doing. And I feel like, from my perspective, is again looking at the data and tracking that data. Like, when you're thinking about community, how many comments, what's the engagement rate? So for example, in my LinkedIn profile, I can tell you now, even though I don't have the biggest amount of comments, likes, and whatever it is, I know that my engagement rate has increased to 14.5% per post. Now, that's pretty good. And so you might get others that have got a much bigger following on places on social media. But ultimately, I would sooner have a smaller amount of followers that's prepared to trust me and to have more clients, rather than having a massive audience and having zero engagement and zero conversations. What do you think is best, guys? So again, I feel like that's a great trend to think about. My last trend and prediction for 2026, which I think is so underrated, and is certainly something that has become quite a fascination from my perspective. Now, I really believe this, and I always believed that in order to grow a business is that you have to get resourceful, and you would just need to keep plugging in money to invest in marketing. That's kind of what my thought pattern, my belief system was. But actually, one of the most underrated business growth hacks that I would definitely share with you guys is looking at acquisitions. And one of the things that we're seeing right now is that baby boomers control 80% of the world's wealth. And a lot of them that have been in business for like 25, 30, 35 years plus, they're all looking to escape and create an exit for themselves, right? And one of the things that what I'm saying, that there's two advantages here. If you're looking at starting up a business, like, forget about starting a business from scratch. It's too difficult in this climate. consider looking at a business that's got an established client base and the founder or the business owner wants an exit. And that way, one of the things that we're looking to do right now is we're looking at traditional based boring, what I call boring businesses that can add value to our clients and our partners, but more importantly, a way in which we can add value to the business so we can increase its valuation. So you'll take a traditional business that's been around for quite some time. One of the things that I have found is they tend to have outdated systems. There tends to be very traditional in their belief systems. But also there's things in that which can be updated, that can be improved upon. And most of these businesses have built a business based on referrals and recommendations. So one thing to do is look at acquiring businesses. And one of the things that we're definitely going to be doing is looking at some of those boring based businesses so that we can increase the valuation of the business over a 2 to 5 year period and then exit out, of course. So it's a great way to really grow rather than just using conventional spray and pray marketing methods. Because you know what? Business growth over a long period of time it's hard at best. It's like running a marathon, but never stopping. And that's just not sustainable. Those are my 5 trends and predictions of 2026. Now, like I said, take it with a pinch of salt. I'm just sharing with you about what's working, what's not working, and really in a nutshell, whether you decide that you're going to take one of these trends or a number of trends and implement it into your own business, which is what I would highly recommend you do, then do report back, do stay in touch, because I feel like the more that you're able to share your struggles, and again, reach out to me. If you're on places like LinkedIn, for example, reach out, connect with me, follow me over on LinkedIn. If this is the first time that you're listening to the podcast, make sure you hit that subscribe and follow button. Anyway, from me, Adam Strong, hope you enjoyed this week's podcast, of course, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Take care. Cheers now. Bye-bye.